I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the 30-30. The skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
Hello. How's it going out there?
Hello.
How's it going out there tonight, everybody? Glad you guys could join us on this special Thursday night edition of Paranormal Odyssey Live. Lisa, how's it going, ma'am?
Going good. I'm glad this week is almost over. Want to say hello to everybody. Carson, Kelly, Miss Sandra, welcome to the show. Tiffany, as always, thank you for being on here and helping me out. So, hey, everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. What I'm learning from this is maybe Friday nights isn't the best night to do our live shows, because Monday we had a really good audience, and seems like tonight's starting off really well. It might have something to do with our guests, though. That might have something to do with it.
I'm so excited for these guests.
I am too. It's I was telling Neoma, we were texting a little bit before all this got started, and I was telling her it's been a long time since I've been nervous before a live show, and I was actually nervous before this one. I don't know, the gentleman that we're having on tonight, I have a lot of respect for. This first time I've actually got a chance to meet him, so
Me too.
I'm nervous about tonight, and y'all know how I feel about Neoma. She's awesome. This is like the fourth time Neoma's been on, so it's always fun when she comes on. So let's get all this out of the way so we can get to our guests.
Yes.
Guys, if y'all have not done so already, please hit that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate that. If you have had an encounter and would like to come on and share it with me and Lisa, or on just one of the podcasts, first step in doing that is shooting me an email. You can get me at wayne@paranormalworldproductions.com. Guys, if you would, please head over to paranormalworldproductions.com, the website. Check out our other shows. You can get some information, join the blog on this show, and get some merch for this one, as well as our other shows, Sasquatch Odyssey and True Crime Odyssey. Brian is killing it over there, as always. So, guys, show us some support if you would. Also want to mention my organization, Manimal Research. If you're interested in getting out in the field and doing some Bigfoot research, or getting some information about doing it, you're welcome to come over to our Facebook group, Manimal Research, and join. We would love to have you.
And as we get a little bit closer, we just got a release date for the latest film that I worked on. And when we get a little bit closer to that release date, I can share more information about that.
Very cool. Very cool. I was going to ask you something, but I won't. We'll just wait, because you know what you can share and what you can't. So
yeah,
I ain't going to put you in a rough spot there. All right. All of that out of the way. being said, we let the cat out of the bag who our guest is. We've been promoting it pretty good for a little while. Got Miss Neoma Finn back for her third or fourth time, and Mr. Cameron Buckner. They are backstage and ready to go. And guys, if y'all have any questions tonight for either of them, they are expecting it. They know that the possibility is there. But if you would please put those questions in all caps.
Yes.
That
That
is-
helps me so much.
Yeah, Lisa is always on the lookout for questions, and they can get by you sometimes, especially if they're not in caps and they don't jump out at you. So just help her out and put them in caps, please.
And like the other night, I mean, we just had so many questions. I mean, they were just coming, boom, 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 boom. So it's so easy to look over and see the capitalized ones.
Yeah. All right, you ready to bring them on?
Yes.
Let's do this.
Yes, definitely.
Miss Neoma Finn, Mr. Cameron Buckner, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Doing good. Thanks. Okay, now I want to interview Lisa. I want to hear all about this film. I want to hear all about this film you're working on. Are you like a film
I'm a
producer?
producer. Yeah, I'm a producer, and this film is gonna be released in June, and that's all I can say about it. Like right now, we're getting ready for the premiere, the whole red carpet and all that stuff, and we have a soundtrack to this film that is unreal. And once we release that, I hope I can like play a song on here one night. This soundtrack is off the chart. I mean, it's amazing.
Awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit about the genre, or
It's family friendly, very family friendly. Little on the spiritual side. I just think it's one of the best and most proudest things I've worked on.
Awesome. Yeah, Cam, Lisa has worked on some stuff that you've probably heard of. She worked on Nashville, the show. Are you familiar with it?
No.
True Detective.
True Detective.
Oh yeah, True Detective on HBO.
Yes.
Woody Harrelson and
No,
Matt McConaughey?
season three. So
Okay,
not that
okay.
one. Season 3.
That's awesome. Wow, I know someone famous. That's awesome.
No, and Snapped and Fatal Attraction and
Well, maybe
couple of
we need to
other
get
things.
Lisa set up with Mr. Steve Lilly to see if we can't get something dropped with that.
Hey, by the
yes?
way, I don't mean to be hogging up the show, but
Go ahead,
these
man,
things
it's
just
yours.
pop in my head. And
Pop away.
someone, I'm not going to the Gatlinburg Bigfoot conference, namely because it's so expensive to go and to stay. But I think I'm going to this Anniston, Alabama thing. I don't know if you guys know about that. I think it's called the Alabama Bigfoot Conference. And I was talking to one of the organizers today, and I kind of hate to say this if it doesn't work out, but I might be telling a Steve Lilly story live on stage when we go. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I'm going to write a brand new story and just tell it. I may have to read it because I'm not a very good storyteller, but it's the story's going to come across. So anyway, yeah.
That is so awesome. When is that, Cam?
I think it's June the 10th. Don't anyone write this down. I'll announce it on my podcast in the next week or so if that's going to happen. And I'll shoot you an email, Wayne, and let you know so you can let people know. But
Absolutely.
Neoma, you're going to be there, aren't you?
Is that the one that's being organized by Lanita, her friend?
Yeah.
That's June 9th and 10th. I intend to be there. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Now, are you participating at all, Neoma, or what are you doing?
I'm going to have a booth there, and I'm hoping that Cam will hang out at my booth with me.
Well, I'm looking for someone to hang out with there because I'm not going to have a booth. But yeah, I'll sit with you. I'm used to sitting with you at
I know. I usually come and sit with you in Gatlinburg. So
now we can reverse the roles. It's perfect.
Yeah, except for you to still be the one with the line people wanting to take their picture with you. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that you guys aren't going to the Gatlinburg when Brian and I are actually setting up there.
I'm going to try to go to that too.
Yeah, the Paranormal World Productions. We're going to have a table there.
Oh, that would be cool. But Gatlinburg, the thing about Gatlinburg is cheap and Gatlinburg is expensive everywhere else on the planet.
Yeah.
And they draw a pretty good crowd, and it's a really fun one to go to, but it's just not. Because of who's going to be there this year, and I can't remember who it was. Matt Moneymaker's going to be there, and Cam allowed me to be a part of an interview he did with Matt. And I thought it would be fun to meet him in person. And I was all excited. I was like, I'm going to go. But as it was happening, like my computer shut down. I couldn't get to do it. I couldn't convert it to my credit card instead of my debit card. And I was just like taking them all as signs from God to tell me you're not going. So that's why I'm not going. And then when I found out that Cam wasn't going, I was like, well, I'm really glad I'm not going, because he's kind of my hang out buddy when I go there. Yeah. And last year I was in so much pain after that long drive that I wound up only staying half the day. So
yeah, you were hurting.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry to get us started on that. This is your show. My apologies.
Cam, I tell all of my guests when they come on before, we go live that, once the pleasantries are done, the show is theirs. We take it whatever direction they want to go. So you want to
free for all.
You want to talk about the weather, man? We'll talk about the weather.
I want to talk to Lisa about what she does.
We'll talk later. I want to hear about what you're doing, and Neoma, I want to hear about what you're doing. Okay. And I know everybody else that logged on here wants to know about what y'all are doing.
Well, let's let ladies go first. Neoma, I listened to Hunted last night, and I loved it. I started it, and it's very rare for me. It's very rare for me having a 2-year-old daughter to have the time to start something and finish it. But she let me last night, and I couldn't stop. It was so well written. And Cam, you got that voice, man, that everyone knows your voice. You do such an amazing job reading this stuff. And you hinted a little bit that there might be a sequel. Tell us a little bit about Hunted and what's coming up in the future.
Well, so when I originally spoke with Cam about Hunted, he says, well, why don't you just write a short story? Don't worry about, just sit down and write it. And don't worry about things like syntax and grammar, and just send it to me. So I literally did that. I sat down and I think it only took me, it probably took a whole week to do it, but I didn't work on it solid. Like I worked on it for a couple hours one day and then a few hours. So probably a total of maybe 3 or 4 days to put the whole thing together. And I sent it to him, and I didn't go back and look for holes in the story. I didn't, there's a couple of questions I really should have answered at the end of the story. And I thought, well, if it does okay, maybe I'll write a sequel. And I was surprised that it did so well. Not that I would expect anything on Cam's channel to do well, but I was surprised that people were willing to tune in and listen to this silly little short story I'd written. So we were talking, and I was like, well, Cam, I do have the idea for a sequel. And he's like, yeah, go ahead, send it to me. So I did. And it basically, in the original, she talks about the only 2 times she came back were for her father's funeral and then her mother's. Or her mother's funeral and then her father's. And the sequel is what happened when she came back. So, and it's longer than the original. I think. I
have the manuscript right here on my desktop.
I think the original was not quite 12,000 words, and I think that this one, the sequel's about 17,900. So.
Now, Naomi, you said you wrote that, and how long did it take? Just a few days?
Well, I wrote it over the period of a week, but just for a couple hours a day. So probably 3 straight 8-hour days is what it took to write it.
Wow.
And
I'll say this before she gets the big head. I think she shaped that story off of another story, because the first manuscript I got for the podcast that's up with that story, I actually recorded it. It was about, what did I say, 6,000 words?
It was a lot of words.
I recorded this whole story, and I did it cold. I can do her stuff cold because she edits for me, and she cleans up all the stories that I do. Virtually 99% of the stories you hear on my channel, unless they're audiobooks or
Somebody else's fiction.
yeah, Neoma cleans them up. And so I never have to, I just open them up, start reading, because it's like she's become accustomed to the way I speak. And so she edits them that way. And so I can just almost read them. I have a little clicker here that when I mess up, I'll click because it'll spike on my timeline.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
So I'll know where there's an error. And on something that I do, there'll be 20 or 30 of these clicks. A lot of people think I just read it straight out, but I don't. It takes a lot of editing and revisions, but with hers there might be 2 or 3. And so here's the point. She sent me this other story, and I just busted it out. And then when I got to the end of it, I thought,
this doesn't make sense.
Well, I'll put this story up if that's what she wants. But there was no, there's no creature. My channel is kind of a creature channel and podcast, and we do stories that people send us, and we'd also do fiction, and because it's fun. And so I called her, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, that's not the file I meant to send." And I said, "Well, I just recorded it." So I actually had to record that story twice, and the second version was twice as long, which I recorded it in like about an hour. I think it's an hour and 15-minute. No.
Yeah, the video's about an hour and 13 minutes long.
Yeah,
so.
I did it all in one shot because it's just the way she writes is so easy for me to read out loud. So anyway, I'm sorry. That story, I think she had written the base premise of that story for maybe one of her novels or something else. And then she reworked it. But now this part 2 or the sequel to it's all brand new stuff, isn't it, Neoma?
Oh yeah. Okay. Now, in my defense, I had started the story and I wrote it, and I had gotten to a certain point. My husband, I work in this little corner of the bedroom. Yeah, Kelly, you're right. I don't have enough books. But I'm sitting here in my corner of the bedroom. My husband walks in and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, Cam gave me this kind of an assignment, and I'm writing this story, and I want to know what you think." And I read to him what I wrote for you, that first part that you got. And I was like, "Tell me what you think." And I get nothing. I mean, like, my husband's not going to tell me if it's bad, but he's not going to tell me it's good if it's not. And he's staring at me, and I'm like, "It's that boring." He says, "What is that about?" I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this up and start a whole new file and start over from scratch." But when it came time to send it, I sent the first one to Cam, the one that my husband looked at me like I was a lunatic for having written. It's boring. It's all about, being depressed over her grandfather dying, and it's just, her boyfriend's a jerk, and there's nothing to, and I thought, oh dear Lord, I am so glad he called me and said, "Are you sure you want that?" Because I would have died if that's what had gone out on the air. I would have been like, take it down now. So yeah, it was silly me. I sent the wrong file.
Now, Cameron, you said you did all of that in one take. Now, I'm assuming part 2 you're going to do in one take, so you haven't had a chance to read part 2 yet.
I've skimmed through it, and it's about 8,000 more words than the part 1. So, and I haven't announced this or anything. I'm trying to catch up. I've been sick for like 3 weeks, and I haven't been. Plus, I've been working, my regular job. And I didn't put up a podcast for about 2.5 weeks. And so it's going to take me a while to get to it, but I'll probably get to it early next week and just randomly put it out there. But Neoma is such a good writer. She's got a wonderful imagination, and she has this, it's hard to describe how she kind of sucks you into a story. It's like,
I think that describes it perfect.
Well, I mean, a lot of people will send you stuff and you'll read it, and a lot of it's really good, but there's a really good talent. And I use this quote all the time. Margaret Atwood, the world-renowned author, said, if you want me to read your book, hold my attention. Hold my attention. And that's what she's able to do with her writing. And so it's not just covered up with a bunch of fluff and minutia and needless details. It's just good. The story moves. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It just keeps moving, So
Yeah. Yeah, she has just an amazing gift for not only writing but the storytelling as well. Neoma was every year, Cam, my organization, we do a camp out. Call it the Squatch Out, and we have guest speakers that come. And Neoma kicked it off this past year and was our storyteller. She did like a campfire storytelling session for about 2 hours before the first night of it, and she just absolutely killed it.
I heard about that. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was an awesome time, and I hope that you'll come back to the next one. Absolutely.
So enough about me. I want to talk Steve Lilly.
Yeah. Well, Cameron, that was gonna be my next question. You laid out the premise of your channel just a little bit. You share encounters that folks send in, and you've also been doing some fiction. And I've got turned on to Mr. Steve Lilly, and I'm not ashamed to tell you that I have a new man crush. I don't care if he's but I got a little thing for Steve Lilly. Man, where did you come up with that? And you're not too shabby about it yourself.
No, he was pretty darn good.
The channel didn't start out that way. The channel started out year 5, going on 5 years. I wrote stories. I recounted stories on paper that people had told to me. That was like the first 5 or 6 podcasts I did. I didn't think anybody would be interested in it, but I was having fun doing it, so I just kept doing it. And then people seemed to like it, and the audience grew a little bit. And so I ran out of stories, and so I thought, I don't have time to write all these. I had not looked past the first 5 or 6 podcasts. And so, excuse me. So I asked the audience, I said, hey, if you've had some kind of weird thing happen, when we kind of limited it to Bigfoot, and emails started coming in like 10 or 12 a day. And then I started panicking, thinking, how am I going to get to all these? And so then it kind of switched to that, and it was solely Bigfoot. And then all the Bigfoot crazies pissed me off. And so, namely because of Matt Moneymaker, I don't know Matt Moneymaker. I've talked to him twice in my life, and I still don't have a judgment on him. But they hammered me so bad. These really orthodox Bigfoot people, that's who I'm talking about. A lot of people will say, well, you don't need to say that stuff about your audience. My audience today is not those people. They've all left because they're so hacked off that I had Matt Moneymaker on. They're so immature. And so that made me so mad and so angry that I thought, I'm not doing 100% Bigfoot anymore. So now we do Bigfoot and we do other things. A podcast that I released, I think one's going to release here in about 6 minutes. I've got it scheduled, and one yesterday. All the podcasts have at least 1 or 2 paranormal type ghosts or UFO kind of stuff, or they're real interesting stories. And so I'm so long-winded, so just stop me whenever you need to. But at some point a couple of years ago, I kind of got bored with the Bigfoot stories. They're great, they're all exciting, but you can find a common thread in all of them. And some people will say, oh, well, that's great, they all have a common thread, so they must be true and all this stuff. And they may be. Every one of them may be true. But when you are in my shoes and you're doing one after another, 4 or 5 of these stories 3 times a week, it begins to run together, and it almost feels like you're reading a lot of the same stuff. So it was interesting to me to go to other topics, which I mainly did that for me, mainly. Secondarily, because the Bigfoot orthodox Bigfoot people really hacked me off. And so I got a little bored and I thought, I'm just going to write something that's lighthearted, something that's fun. And so I just sat down one day, and the first Steve Lilly, I wrote it, I think, in about a day, maybe 6 hours. I just started typing, and I thought, well, that's pretty good. So I recorded that and I put it up, and I didn't think anything about it. Matter of fact, I didn't even put it on Dixie Cryptid. I put it on another podcast that I have started that is now the Steve Lilly podcast. But, and people really, I was getting unbelievable feedback. You can't go by the comments because, if 10,000 people watch this podcast right here, there's going to be maybe 30 or 40 who are going to comment on it. So you're not getting but you're getting a pretty good sample of the way people like it. Everything that I saw in the comment section, plus in emails coming to me, were telling me that there were 90% of the people really like that. So a month later, I wrote another one, and I've got 12 written. I've got 10. Anyway, it's a long story. They were kind of mishmashed, and I was the first batch of Steve Lilly's. I did the first 5 in one giant long 3-hour podcast, just so that people on Dixie could listen to them. They were all singularly on the other podcast, one episode at a time, with other stories. And I thought, well, people enjoy this so much, I'm just going to make it its own thing. So it's just kind of evolved, and it evolved into its own podcast. Now, I haven't released a Steve Lilly in probably 4 months, but I just haven't had time to write. I haven't had time to record, but I'm going to be finishing up 3 Steve Lillys that I had started, hopefully over the weekend and the coming week, and the next, the following week I'll put 3 or 4 more up. And so it's just a lot of fun. And he's kind of a composite of a guy of about 20 guys that I know. And when people ask me about, how did you come up with that character? And I'll just say, guys like that. They'll go, yeah, I do. I do know guys like that. So you take this little eccentricity this one fella has, and you take this other little weird quirk this other guy has, and you take this other kind of funny way of speaking this guy has, and you just put them all together, and you come up with a character. And that's how I got him. And then his sidekicks they're specific guys I've known through the years and still are friends with. And I call these guys and I tell them, this character is you, don't you? And they're like, hell yeah, I know.
That's awesome. Yeah. Naomi and I were talking a little bit about it last night or the night before, and she had made the comment that it's so cool. It needs to be like a Netflix series. And I could see that. Is that something that you, you would entertain that?
I was just going to ask if you have wrote these in screenplay, if you've wrote them like a screenplay. I mean, I don't
know how to write a screenplay. I barely know how to spell my own name, but it's,
my husband knows how to write screenplays.
Well, and then I don't know what to do with it. Do you get an agent? Do you get, what do you do? I don't know.
It.
Cam, I happen to know a producer in television and movies pretty well.
You shop it, and you shop it around and see if anybody takes any bites on it. And it's everybody thinks like it happens like overnight, like you write this amazing screenplay and everybody's interested in it. It takes at least 3 years to develop a screenplay into a film.
I'm sure. I mean, I don't want for Lisa, but I'm sure Lisa would be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you about it.
Pointed in the right direction. But in all seriousness, guys, is as popular as the Bigfoot subject is, the last decade, it has exploded. We all know that. We see all these Bigfoot reality TV shows come and go, you know, Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, all this stuff. I can't remember ever seeing a fictional Bigfoot series. And I think it would do well. I think it would do really, really well if one was done right. And from what I've heard, Cameron, what you're doing with Steve Lilly, it's awesome. It's entertaining as hell.
Maybe just one film, you know, would be good.
Yeah.
There's a whole storyline. I've got half of a novel written, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's some depth to this guy. And so, the thing is, I don't know what to do with it, but just keep writing it and putting it out on a podcast. And if it catches someone's eye or ear, then all my email addresses are attached to all my podcasts. They can email me, and that's all I know to do. But I don't know,
I think piggybacking off what you said, Wayne, about like the Bigfoot shows and the movies and stuff, it's so weird. Like Hollywood, like they get hooked on one thing, you know, it's like Annabelle and The Conjuring, and it's cyclical like that. You know, they want one thing and then they just saturate it. And you're right. We've not had a good creature film in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
The April, my wife and I talk about that about once every 3 months, and she's like, who would play Steve Lilly, and who would be Lewis, and who would be Hook? And there's a new character that's going to be introduced in the next episode, and he's a really funny guy, but he's really tough. And but I'm like, you know, I'm not really that worried about who would play Steve Lilly. What I care about are the CGI artists who create the Bigfoots that they fight, to make sure they make them as big and bad and mean as they possibly can. Because there was one film that came out that I don't watch Bigfoot stuff very much. I've watched a couple of Bobcat Goldthwait's Bigfoot film. What was it
Willow
called?
Creek.
Willow
Willow
Creek. It was
Creek.
really good. It was good. But it was kind of along the lines of the Blair Witch type, you know, filming, and but it was good, and you never see the creature. I want, if they do, you know, of course, once you sign the rights over, you lose all creative input in it anyway. But I wish that they would. Anyway, there was this film that Sam Elliott was in called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then He Killed Bigfoot, or I can't remember the exact title. But I was so excited about that. I thought, okay, Sam Elliott, this guy's he's big. He's a huge draw. And they're going to do a good Bigfoot. They're going to do, you know, some mean looking Bigfoot. It was the scrawniest, emaciated looking Bigfoot I've ever seen. Now, granted, that Bigfoot was sick, but I don't think he had some kind of a virus or something, and that's why they were going to kill him. But it was just a pathetic looking Bigfoot. So yeah, that's the only input I'd like to have, is let's make these Bigfoots really mean and nasty looking.
And that costs money, you know, and that's the bottom line with any film is, you know, how much is it going to cost? What can we do it for? And that you get into that CGI and even costumes. Like, that's why I always laugh about people talk about the Patty film, and they're like, oh, it's a person in a costume and blah, 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 blah. That I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I have a lot to say about that.
Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, back then they couldn't have made a costume like that with the funds that those guys had.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, just costumes now are outrageous. That's one of the biggest parts of your budget is the costume department.
Right.
And
just a little interjection on my part. At that point, the most believable costumes in Hollywood at that time were used in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And they weren't as good as what that video shows. And that was the best Hollywood could do at that point in time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they were pretty good.
You took it from me, Naoma. I've said it so many times. It was either the year before or the year after the Patty film. Planet of the Apes won the Academy Award for best costume.
For best costumes.
Yeah.
So that's the best that Hollywood.
And they were doing like
well, and just the muscle movement and
Yeah.
like I said, I could go down a whole rabbit hole on that costume.
Well, Cameron, you flirted with a little bit. Who would be your pick to play Steve Lilly?
Oh, I don't know. I thought I mean that I have an image in my mind of what he looks like, but probably the closest would be Matthew McConaughey or Woody Harrelson. You know, Woody Harrelson was great in those zombie movies that I can't remember the titles of them, but he was so
Zombieland.
funny in those. And so Steve Lilly is this real unassuming guy who just takes life one step at a time. You know, he's just dealing with what comes at him hour by hour, and not just in his Bigfoot bounty hunting, but just in his life. And Matthew McConaughey he's an exquisite actor, if you ask me. He's really good. He can get into those characters. But you know, I don't really care who it is. But Steve Lilly's not a big guy. He's not a big muscular, you know, Schwarzenegger type actor and or a character. And now his buddies are Lewis and Hook are both just these enormous guys. But yeah, I think my favorite would be probably Matthew McConaughey. I think if they said you pick the actor, that's who I'd say. Now,
Yeah.
whether he'd take the role or not, probably not. But anyway,
You never know.
Woody Harrelson. I mean, you hit it right on the head right there. I think he would do an amazing job. as
Yeah.
Steve.
I'm sorry, I see Ryan Reynolds.
that's another possibility. He would be great, but he just doesn't have the accent.
Yeah.
And the thing that Southern accents, they're really hard to fake. You know, when people who don't have it try to do a Southern accent in an acting role, people who live down here were like, no, that's not the way we talk, you know. So
Josh
Anyway.
Lucas would be really good in
Yeah, I
that.
don't know who he is.
Josh Lucas, he was in Sweet Home Alabama. He
Okay.
I know
plays
who
the
he is.
younger John Dutton on Yellowstone in that series.
he's a good narrator too.
Yeah,
He's a really good narrator.
Yeah, he does all the, I think, Home Depot commercials. He does the voiceovers for like the Home Depot commercials.
Now, Cam, speaking of narrating, you've got your hand in a little bit of that too. I've heard you on some of D.A. Roberts stuff. Is that something you enjoy doing?
Love it. I love doing audiobooks. But they take a lot of time. So I have to have like one of DA's books, his books are 70 to 80,000 words. That's a full 7 days of recording and, you know, 7 to 10 days of recording and editing. And I love doing them. It's peaceful for me. I just kind of shut everything down and I just get into the book. And I'm not good at it. I'm not a voice actor. I was telling Neoma this not too long ago. I'm not really a narrator. I'm just a fairly average reader. I can read out loud. I couldn't at first because you can listen to some of my first podcasts. You think, man, this guy's like a moron. But I've kind of developed you do thousands of them and you naturally kind of get better at it. But so I don't do voices very well. I do a few. My favorite are doing old Southern women. Like I love it when there's a character in a book that's an old Southern woman. Jack LaFountain's books have a couple in his books, and I get to do those accents. And then when there's a lot of dudes in the book, you know, male characters, I can't do that many voices. I just can't do that many. You know who can is Will Patton. He can do tons of voices. And I've been listening to Mark Greeny's books on Audible, the Gray Man series. I think he's got 11 out now. I can't remember the name of the narrator, but he is superb. He is awesome. He does he does like foreign accents and stuff. I love listening to him, but I just can't do it. So yeah, I do a few audio books, and I may have just done my last Audible audiobook.
Now, is that something that you do at your home? Cam, or do you have to go to a studio? Or I guess you're
No,
set
I
up.
do it right here on this microphone. Yeah, this microphone right here.
Awesome. I was wondering how that works. Now, do you just do it for people you know, or can other people reach out to you, or do you just do it like a favor for people that you like, or how is that done?
Um, Tea time with Tiffany. Do the Southern Woman.
I'd love to hear it.
Me
Oh,
too.
I need something to read. Uh, I, ca- I don't know why I can't think of anything to say. Uh, like there's this old woman, and it's usually just a small part in a book, and Ed Landry is the main protagonist in Jack LaFountain's Ed Landry novels, and he invariably every single book they have to go interview some old woman that saw this dog man. Why, Sheriff, I did see that big thing walking out in my front yard, and he walked right out through the woods. You just kind of get you just because I've heard so many of them say things that way, and I mean, I've
Wow.
got neighbors right here who talk like that. And it's like their accents and the way they talk and the slowness of the way they talk is just music in my ears. I love to hear a Southern accent. Mostly men will butcher, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of guys, Southern guys, they try to really, what's the word? It's like they'll really bring that accent out when they're around people who don't have one,
Accentuate it.
Yeah.
or when they're around a bunch of other dudes. They just start. They got to be tough, But a woman, that accent is authentic. What you're hearing is exactly the way she talks every time. Women are that way. They're just going to talk the way they talk, and so it's just music to me. And I listen for things like that. I'm a weirdo.
Do you ever listen to like I know I try to catch this a lot with like working with actors and stuff. Like I can tell if somebody's from Alabama, if they're from Texas, if they're from Georgia, if they're from Tennessee, if they're from North Carolina, if they're from South Carolina. You just hear those little nuances in their voices.
Where do you live, Lisa?
I live in Arkansas.
Okay, well, I lived in Arkansas for 15 years up around Jonesboro.
Hmm.
I don't know what part of the state you live in, um, but people
Northwest Arkansas.
yeah, okay, up around Fayetteville and
No, I live in Dardanelle, Arkansas.
okay. Um,
True grit country.
Yes.
but here, like for instance, here in Mississippi, I live 60, 70 miles from the Delta.
Hmm.
I'm kind of up in what they call the hill country,
Hmm.
which is like just little bumps, but it's not flat as a pancake like the Delta is. And someone from the Delta, as opposed to here, I can tell where they're from. I can hear them talk. North Alabama, South Alabama,
Hmm.
North Carolina, people in North Carolina have a very distinct accent.
Yes.
South Carolinians do. East Tennesseans, it's very unique. And
I'm East Tennessee right here.
yeah, so and they use a lot of different words than
Yes.
like words I've never heard. And people not from a Southern, not raised in this culture, really in general, the culture's about the same. We're all about the same. We just have a little different dialect and accent. But I think mine is a Memphis accent. I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. And so, and it's probably a little drawn out now that I was in Arkansas for a long time. Now I've been in Mississippi for 10 or 12 years. So you pick up where you are. You pick up accents where you are. Like my son got out of the Marine Corps about 8 years ago, and he was he was raised in Northeast Arkansas, so he had that accent. Well, now he worked here in Mississippi for the last several years, and I can hear it. I can hear his accent changing to a Mississippi accent because whoever you're around, you just start talking like they
Yeah.
did, and that's
Yeah.
Um, Do I still sound like I'm from the Midwest?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I work hard not to get that Southern accent. I want my Midwest accent.
However,
I'm actually
when
a
you go
Yankee
back
Billy.
home, I bet they say, "Oh, you're picking up the accent down there, don't they?"
Well, there's certain things that I've lost the ability to say in Yankee. I can't say Tennessee. I can't say it in Yankee. It always comes out hillbilly or Southern. It's all,
How do you say Tennessee any other way than Tennessee?
Yeah.
Well, you don't say E at the end. It's E. It's Tennessee. But in the South, it's more lyrical. Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I can't say it Yankee anymore.
Yeah.
But it's the only word that I've noticed, and I picked that up from my husband, who is also a Yankee. And but I'm a Yankabilly, which is to mean I was
I like
raised in
that.
the North. I was raised in the North. I grew up in the heart of the Midwest, but my parents were transplants from Arkansas, so I was raised in the Southern culture with a Northern accent. Therefore, I'm a Yankabilly.
I love that.
Yeah. Now my parents would get really mad if they even called them a hillbilly because they were all bottomlanders. They weren't hillbillies. They found that insulting, but I called them hillbillies.
Where were they from?
Well, my dad was born in Newport. You know where that's
okay.
at?
Know
Yeah.
exactly where that's at.
And my mom was born in a little town called Saffel, which isn't too far from there. And she was raised in Caraway.
Okay. Know exactly where that's at.
Yeah. So they were all in the East Bottoms. And they never liked being called hillbillies, even though my grandparents, as I told you before the show started, were actually, in my lifetime, they all lived up in, Flippin and Cotter.
And that is hillbilly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's way up there.
Yeah. So I associated my dad's side of the family with that, and my mom's side of the family with Northeast Arkansas. I can just go on and on.
I ask my mother-in-law all the time how you spell yins. The word yins be careful, or are yins going?
Yes.
A friend of mine and I, we were driving through Arkansas. She had moved down there too. Her husband was an executive for the chicken people down there, Tyson. And they had moved down there so he could work out of the headquarters. And I'd gone down to visit, and he'd surprised us with tickets to go see Toby Keith in Little Rock. We were driving out of Little Rock, and we were going through Conway. Mm-hmm. And there was a big billboard, and I'm driving, I'm not paying attention. And my friend Denise said, "Jeet yet?" I said, "No, you hungry?" And she looked at me and she said, "What?" I said, "You just asked me if I ate yet. You know I haven't. I've been with you all the whole time. Are you hungry?" She said, "No, I was reading that sign. It said JEETYET. What does that mean?"
That
I
sign's still up there.
told you I'm hungry. Yeah, she was like, "Holy cow, I was trying to figure out what it said, and you answered it." I said, "Well,
that sign is still on I-40.
Jeet yet. Yep.
Jeet yet.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit here.
I'm sorry. Oh, can I ask one real quick question of Cam that I have been wanting to know for months?
Go ahead.
I keep forgetting to ask him this in our private conversations, and it occurred to me while you were interviewing him a little bit ago. I remember, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it wasn't your podcast, but I remember your early shows having sound effects. Was that you?
I've put a few, maybe a half a dozen. I've put some sound effects in.
I remember them scaring the snot out of me.
Really?
Oh, Lord, yeah. Jump out of my skin.
I remember trying to get a Bigfoot growl, and I was trying to think of what animal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was on this royalty site where you can download SFX files and stuff, and they have all kind of monster clips and stuff. And that was an alligator rumble, an alligator rumble. And then there was a couple other roars and things like that. I don't remember, but I remember that alligator sounds pretty good. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I probably should, but
they scared the snot out of me. I remember that.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts, real popular podcasts, they fictional podcasts, they have all kind of sound effects. People, footsteps on the floor and car doors opening and rain and gunshots and traffic and pedestrian traffic, everything. And man, that must be, if I had to do that for podcasts, it would take me 2 weeks to do one. I mean, it just takes forever to do them.
I added sound effects to one. In fact, Kelly is in the chat right now. It was her story where there was I think it was a clock or something. Or no, it was a bell ringing. And I thought it turned out really well, but it wasn't something that I was really interested in because it takes me forever to do mine to begin with. But I do remember. I'm so glad because I've tried to go back and find them, but I can't figure out. Maybe I'm not.
I'll try to remember which ones. I'll send you a link, but they're horrible. They're horrible. Those are the worst.
Guys, I apologize. It's storming here. My dog was going crazy. And
Oh no!
anyway, I'm back.
Please tell me there's someone behind that door.
Oh yeah. I mean, I left it open so my dog could come in.
It just opened on its
Yeah.
own. That's a little creepy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract us. Go on. I'm sorry, Wayne.
You're fine, man. Like I said at the beginning, this is y'all's show. We go whatever direction y'all want to go. But I am curious, Cam. How long have you been doing Dixie Cryptid? How many years now?
I think I started I created the channel in September of 2018, and then I put my first video up in like October or November. So this September, October will be 5 years.
That's a hell of a growth in 5 years. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Well, it's actually pretty slow now.
Well, I'm wondering, in the almost 5 years that you've been doing this, have you seen anything? Has anything happened to you that's almost pushed you to walk away?
No.
No?
No.
Even with all the negativity from the Bigfoot world?
Oh no, man, those people are nuts. I'm not quitting this because they're silly and goofy. And I enjoyed this so much, and I have never been able to put my finger on why. But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that people enjoy listening to the podcast. To me, it has never made sense. And Neoma and I have this running argument about, she'll say, "Oh, that was great." And I'm like, "Well, that was pretty good, but it doesn't rate like 50,000 people listening to it. It doesn't make any sense to me because I'm just a redneck. I mean, I'm just an average dude from Memphis, and I've lived around quite a bit. And I've lived in Kentucky and Tennessee and Mississippi and Arkansas. But I'm just an average guy, April, my wife asked me, she goes, what, she was asking me something about the podcast. And I said, this was a couple of years ago. I said, you know what I like? One of the things I like about it the most is I can just sit here and talk like when I'm recording and no one interrupts me. You've probably been at a dinner table or weighing around a bunch of dudes or whatever. You can never, if you want to share a story or, people want to contribute to conversations.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you don't get cut off or one-upped. You know what one-upped is? Somebody's wants to one-up you. And, well, hell, if you think that's something, those guys, you think that's something. But I get to sit here. Nobody interrupts me. Nobody says a word. I get to say whatever I want to say. And for some unknown, crazy, weird reason, there's a small group of people who enjoy listening to. I don't think they like hearing me talk. I think they just like to hear the stories. And that's really what I want. I've always tried not, YouTube and social media and Instagram and Facebook, and which is a whole nother topic we could talk about, but people who are, quote, and I'm not sure what the clear definition of an influencer is, but everything is about them. It's like the camera's always on them. Everything's about them, what I'm doing. And, this is my cool car and this is my motors. That's where I live. And, and if they don't say it specifically, they're showing it in the background. They're trying, they're just making everything about them. I never wanted to be, premier on the channel, and at least my face. And I knew I would need to show my face at some point because I wanted to get to know some of the really super nice people that watch the channel or listen to the podcast. And I still, matter of fact, in my podcast now, I used to, after every story, I would give like a little 2-minute commentary on what I thought about the story and all this. I've pretty much quit doing that because that makes it about me. I start thinking about that, and I start thinking, that's just my opinion. That's not, people might disagree with what I'm saying. Although a lot of people say they like hearing it, the 2 podcasts I've uploaded yesterday and one that just came out probably about 30 minutes ago. I do a little commentary on those because I just can't shut my mouth. But yeah, there's nothing that's really made the Bigfoot goofballs have never deterred me one bit because I'm not about Bigfoot. I could care less if Bigfoot exists or doesn't exist. I have no dog in that hunt. I don't care what you think about Bigfoot. I don't want you to care what I think about Bigfoot. I just want to tell stories. That's all I want to do is just tell stories. And how in the world could someone get angry at that? You either watch a TV show or you don't. You don't get mad at it. You don't get mad at the person producing or acting or directing a television series. For some reason, they get all pissed off at me because I do a story that some guy thinks Bigfoot comes from outer space. People just go nuts over that stuff. And I'm like, good grief, man, get a life, But yeah, so nothing's ever deterred me or discouraged me at all. Matter of fact, I get nothing but encouragement from people who follow the channel. 99.9% of the people are just the nicest people on the planet. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you've done it, man. Other than getting to speak to you for the first time, you really seem genuine, and it really comes off that all you care about is sharing the story, and maybe that's the secret to your success, that you just put that out there.
Well, success is one thing, and everything has a shelf life, and I realize that. And the growth of the channel, it's actually started to pick back up. I don't look at it too often, maybe about once a week. I'll look at my stats and subscribership. People, a lot of people just focus on subscribers, and subscribers really, and we're just talking specifically about YouTube. Subscribers is one thing, but how many views are you getting? Mm-hmm. People hitting the subscribe button is easy for people to do, and a lot of people do it. I'm subscribed to probably I don't know. I mean, the list is really long because I'll see a video and I go, I want to watch some more of that, and then I forget about it. But to get people to actually watch your video or listen to your podcast for just 50% of the time is, with all this come at them in this visual and audio market, if you can do that, you've accomplished something. So
as Kelly here says, Cam and Neoma could read a phone directory and I would listen to it.
I love you, Kelly. I really do.
Very nice.
Yeah, and that really, something you said earlier really resonates with me and gives me hope, Cam, because you made the comment earlier that when you first started out reading, you weren't that great at reading out loud. And I'm about 30 little episodes in on my channel. I'm doing this little Paranormal Odyssey shorts where I introduce urban legends and legends and topics and things that aren't that familiar with people. And if someone's interested in it, they can go and do their own research in it. I'm just introducing it to people.
Yeah.
And I found that that's the case with me. I read just fine, but reading out loud is completely different. I have so much respect for people that can read out loud at such a high level like you, and it
Are
gives
y'all
me
having trouble hearing him, or is it just me?
We've got storms coming in on my end, so y'all have been glitching in and out.
I hear him just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, the short of that, Cam, I was just saying that I was in the same boat that when you first started out, not reading as well out loud. So it gives me encouragement that you have mastered it the way you have over time.
Yeah, just one thing that I've learned just lately is like if you're going to narrate something, just do it. If they're shorts, they're 60 seconds or less. Just read it out loud a couple of times without the mic on or anything, and kind of get in the rhythm. Then just reach over and hit record and do it. And then, that goes for reading a 80,000 word novel out loud. Just at each, I usually do a chapter at a time. Just read the first 2 or 3 sentences and just get it going. It's just like get it moving, and then hit the record button, go back to the beginning and start over. And you'll be surprised at how, another thing, I have a specific font. Do you read off a paper or off your screen, Wayne?
Screen.
So I have a favorite font size, line spacing that I found that my eyes seem to follow perfectly. So experiment with that a little bit, and
Okay.
you'll really see a difference. If it's too small, then yeah,
That's a problem I feel like I'm having. A lot of times it is too small and they seem to run together. And yeah, I'm going to try that. That's great advice.
Mine is a 14 size font. I like the Verdana font. I like the line spacing at 1.15, and it's perfect for me. And then, maybe 1/2 inch or 1 inch margins on each side of the page. And I don't know. It's just like, sometimes I'm reading it and I'm like, how do I know what they're going to say? It's like you somehow your eyes become accustomed to looking ahead, but you don't even know it, but they are. And maybe your mouth gets used to your vocal cords and all gets used to keeping up with exactly what your eyes seeing at that moment. And yeah, just practice. You'll get good at it. You can't help but get better at it.
Yeah, like I said, I've done almost right at 30 now, and I can tell a difference from one to the one I just released. It's a little bit better, but I'm gonna try some of that stuff.
I've had actors before, like when we're doing their sides for like their scenes, that they want it printed in a certain font, like you said, or a certain, size. And I get that.
Everybody sees things differently, and the way it relates to your brain is different for everyone. So, those are my preferences, but yours might be smaller. And, I like the Georgia font. It's really good. And, but I have to make it a little bigger, but the letters seem to be spaced out a little further. And so it makes it a little harder. And, I try it every once in a while. Yeah. Just try different things. You'll find.
All right, guys, we are over that hour mark, and I'm not going to keep you guys all night. I appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out. Everybody knows where to find you guys, but I'll put it in the show notes as well. But I do want to thank you both for taking the time to come and hang out. It meant a lot to me.
Does anybody are you limited on time?
No, I'm not. I'm good.
I'll stay if you want to stay another 10 or 15 minutes. Lisa, you had mentioned questions. I don't know if anyone has questions, or I'm not trying to drag this out. Don't get me wrong, but
we've popped them up there. I think we've had more comments than questions.
Yeah, it's been more comments than questions. If anybody's got any questions, fire them off. If the guys don't mind hanging out a couple more minutes.
I'm here for the night.
Neoma, what do you got coming up, ma'am? You got anything new that you're working on?
Well, I have an author who has asked me to read a chapter from one of his books. So I'm going to take a page from Cameron Buckner, and I'm going to read a chapter of a book for an author. And I've been really liking your shorts, and I think I'm going to steal a couple of your legends and do a couple of shows on them. Not doing them as short videos, but as you know, that's my love, is the strange legends and minor myths. which go ahead and ask that question.
Yeah, this is Johnny Tucker had on the other night. Johnny, which one are you asking? He's asking, have you had any personal Bigfoot experiences? We know Neoma, she covered one, but Cam, have you?
No,
Nothing. Okay.
nothing. No, I've never seen evidence. I've never heard anything. I've seen branches broken in the woods, but they're just branches broken in the woods. But I did see with Sawdust Beast, that group that Mark Noble and Larry Porch, they were at LBL a year or two ago, and they found some tracks. The water had come down, and they found some tracks that I wasn't there. I just saw it on video, and I thought, man, that is impressive right there. So,
Cam, what scares you the most besides water moccasins?
I don't know. I don't think about what scares me. I guess, if you take away family tragedies and things like that, if you just keep it lighter than that, nothing in the woods scares me. I walk around out here in the dark all the time. I'll go a mile back in the woods. I'll have a headlight on. If the moon's out, I won't take the headlight, but so the dark doesn't scare me. Bigfoot does not scare me. Yeah, cottonmouths, they scare me.
They scare me.
Yeah.
Especially when they drop down in your kayak and try to hitch a ride with you when you're going down a creek.
I don't care what kind of snake it is. It scares me. I don't want nothing to do with them.
I had one right out here behind my office today. The dogs, I have 2 little dogs, and they were barking. And what's weird is I can always tell when it's a snake. They have this specific bark, and it's just constant. Run, 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 run. And I knew exactly what it was. And it was a big chicken snake. I call them chicken snakes. They get up in our chicken coops and eat eggs and chicks and everything. And but yeah, snakes don't bother me too bad. I don't know really what scares me. No, I don't. I'll probably think of something when we're done.
So none of the stuff that you've covered over the last 5 years kind of creeps you out?
No, I think the thing that it doesn't scare me because I have I don't want to get religious on you guys, but we branched out into other stories and these ghosts and apparitions and stuff. I do quite a few stories on those. And I want to tell people, those are probably not ghosts. A lot of people subscribe to the notion that those are demons, demonic entities that are, they know that we believe in ghosts, and so they kind of come in that form, and they're there to taunt you, but it's not a loved one. If you believe in scripture, then when someone's gone, they're gone. They're not connected to this world in any way. It's cut off. And from there on, we have an idea of where they are, what they could be sleeping, or some people say they go straight to be with the Lord. Some people say they go straight to hell, whichever way you're going to go. But it's what scares me is people getting caught up in this. I don't know. It's like it's a mystic type experience for them. And I think for some people, if you go down that road too deep, it can get dangerous. I've met some people who are creators like us in this, and sometimes I get a little, I don't know, maybe a little tinge of, I don't ever say anything. I never say a word, but I want to go, no, that's not what you're dealing with there. You're dealing with something worse than what you think it is. And it's not nice, However, then you have people on the religious side who will say, all you need to say is be gone in Jesus' name. Well, that's not a magic spell.
Yeah.
And just saying be gone in Jesus' name doesn't mean that bus is not going to run over you, or that building's not going to fall on you, or that pack of dogs is not going to attack you, you know? So, I mean, I think that's a false sense of security. I don't think it's a bad thing to believe in. So you have extremes on both sides, and I think those worry me the most for other people. But I'm not in a position to preach on that. As a matter of fact, this is probably the most I've ever talked about it. Some of these stories I read, I want to go, oh, that's not, you don't need to be afraid of that. You know, you say you're a believer. If you're a believer, nothing satanic, nothing, from the Prince of Darkness can touch you. You are untouchable. If you truly belong to Christ, nothing can touch you. So you're perfectly safe. But you're probably never even going to see anything like that. I think people watch these shows, the exorcist type shows, and they think, like priests doing battle with, these. Anyway, I'm probably just babbling on, but yeah, that kind of worries me for people.
Yeah, I've said it a few times on my show because I interviewed people, ghost hunters, cryptid hunters, and people that have experienced everything. The one thing that really scares me is about paranormal stuff and ghost is that fear of something latching on. If there is a demonic entity in
Yeah.
a place, it latching on and me taking it home, to my kids. That's what
Right.
scares me.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're coming up on an hour and 15 minutes, so I think it's about good time to get out of here. Cam, Neoma, thank you guys so very much for taking the time to hang out. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it, y'all.
Thank y'all.
I enjoyed it.
Can we hang out backstage and talk for a minute afterwards?
Yeah, it's fine.
Mhm.
You guys just hang out, and we'll talk to you here in just a minute. But thanks again, guys, for hanging.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, what do you think about that?
That was such a good show, and I so apologize. Like I said, it's storming, and my dogs were just going nuts. So,
Yeah.
but that was such a good show.
Yeah, it was. I've been looking forward to that for a really long time. Special thanks to Neoma for helping me get it put together. Really, really means a lot to me. So,
Yeah.
all right, guys. My younger, I don't know if y'all heard, but my little one was knocking on the door. That's kind of my cue that I need to start wrapping it up. So I'm gonna get out of here. Lisa, you got anything before we go?
No, I want everybody to have a great week. Everybody be safe. That tomorrow night it's going to be bad. Arkansas, Mississippi, Western Tennessee. Y'all batten down the hatches. We're expecting tornadoes and hail and all that good stuff tomorrow night. So everybody be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Say it every episode, guys. Y'all watch out for each other. Watch out for yourselves, and we'll see you later.
Bye.